The sun had barely risen over the western ranch, casting a soft orange light across its vast grounds. At its center stood a grand colonial-style mansion framed by perfect hedges and an elite military dog training facility. The man behind it all, Richard Weston, was a local tycoon. He'd built his fortune through land deals, weapons contracts, and controversial animal training operations disguised as defense work. Inside the mansion, 7-year-old Sophia sat quietly in her wheelchair by the window. Paralyzed from a car accident at age 3, she watched with quiet focus as a black and tan German shepherd was led across the yard. His name was Brutus, strong, precise in movement. But there was something heavy in his eyes, a limp he tried to hide. "Brutus looks sad today," Sophia whispered. Her mother, Laura, entered with a tray of oatmeal. "That's a military dog, sweetheart. They're trained to obey, not feel." Laura glanced out the window. "But he remembers something bad. He limps when no one's watching." She knelt by Sophia, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You always notice what others don't." Their moment was cut short by the sound of heavy footsteps. Richard entered without knocking, ending a call briskly. His gaze toward Sophia was cold, detached. "Still not ready? We leave for the exhibition in 20 minutes, no delays." "She just woke up. She'll be ready," Laura said, shielding her daughter. "See that she is." He left as abruptly as he came. Laura exhaled and turned to help Sophia dress, but her mind raced. Richard had been increasingly secretive, tense. Just last night she overheard him on a call, words like optics and clean execution. Worse, Brutus's original trainer had been quietly replaced. In his place was Clay, a man with a hard jaw and mean eyes, known for one thing, using pain to control. At the training yard, Clay fastened Brutus's harness, yanking the leash hard. Brutus flinched but stayed still. Richard watched from behind the glass. "You're sure he'll respond to the trigger?" Richard asked. "Yes. He's been reconditioned to react to wheelchairs. Took 2 weeks to break his filters, but he's ready." "Good. Make sure she's close enough during the demo. We frame it as an accident. The public will never know." Clay hesitated. "Sir, the girl. She's not my daughter. She's a child." "She's a liability. My investors expect results, not sentiment. Make sure it's clean." That afternoon, Laura spotted Pedro, the young stable hand, loitering near the dog run. He looked shaken. "Mrs. Weston," he whispered. "I heard them. Mr. Weston and Clay. They're going to let Brutus loose near Sophia, on purpose." Laura froze. "What?" "They trained the dog to attack things with wheels. They want it to look like an accident." The words sank like stones. "Pedro," she said calmly, though her voice trembled, "go to my study. Do not tell anyone. I'll keep Sophia safe." Outside, wind swept across the estate as clouds thickened overhead. The western mansion stood still, but inside, a mother's instincts had awakened, and somewhere across the field, Brutus's ears twitched. The storm was coming. Before the Weston estate, Brutus had served a different purpose. He was once a proud military working dog, trained in search and rescue, tactical obedience. His loyalty had saved lives in Afghanistan. His handler, Corporal Mason Lay, was more than a trainer. He was family. Brutus trusted him completely. But one night, during a mission gone wrong, their convoy was ambushed. Amid gunfire and chaos, Brutus tried to shield his team. He was injured by shrapnel. Mason was killed instantly. Afterward, Brutus was sent home. No ceremony, no farewell, no one waiting. His leg never fully healed. His military career deemed finished. Richard Weston acquired him for next to nothing. At Weston Ranch, the once honored dog became a project, a demonstration piece. No longer praised for loyalty, he was pushed, shocked, starved. Reprogrammed under Clay, who knew nothing of compassion. Brutus withdrew, his responses dulled, his eyes turned vacant. But there was still a flicker inside him, something that refused to die. And then he saw her. Weeks earlier, after a brutal session, Brutus lay motionless in his cage. Through the fading light, he noticed a figure roll past. A wheelchair, small, slow. He tensed, expecting pain, a command. But none came, only a gentle voice. "Hi, I'm Sophia. You look tired. Me too." She stopped a few feet away, holding something in her lap, a piece of bread with peanut butter. Carefully, she broke it in half and slid one piece through the wire. "I'm not supposed to feed you," she whispered. "But I don't think they're feeding you right anyway." Brutus sniffed the offering. His instincts warned him to ignore it, but hunger betrayed him. As he took the bread, he heard a giggle. "I knew you'd like peanut butter. That was my best friend's favorite too. Well, he was a puppy, not a soldier like you." Brutus lifted his head slightly. Her legs lay still beneath a soft pink blanket. She wore a thick sweater, fingerless gloves, but her face radiated light. She reached a hand through the fence. "I don't mind if you don't come close. I just wanted you to know someone sees you." She returned the next day, and the next. When she couldn't come, he waited. When she did, he sat up before she arrived. And one day, for just a moment, he inched forward and touched his nose to her hand. No command, no leash, no threat, just trust. Back in her room, Sophia clutched a charcoal sketch she had made of Brutus, his face, drawn in crayon, detailed in soul. "Mommy says I should stay away," she whispered, "but I know he's not bad. He's just broken like me." Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. Sophia turned toward the sound and wheeled closer to the window. She did not yet know that, in just days, that broken dog would be her shield, and she would be his. The morning of the demonstration. Gray skies loomed. Guests arrived early, investors, military brass, influential friends from Richard Weston's inner circle. The yard was perfectly staged, banners, polished obstacles, a platform where Richard would speak of tactical obedience evolution. Sophia watched from her bedroom window as black SUVs arrived. She recognized some of the men from her father's office, men with stiff smiles, expensive watches, who never noticed her. Today, she would not be invisible. Her mother wrapped a scarf around her neck, nerves in every motion. "Remember what we talked about, Sophia. You stay right here, where it's safe." Sophia looked down at the sketch in her lap. "Mom, I have to be there. He'll know I'm close. I can help him." "You help him by being alive," Laura said firmly. "Promise me." Sophia nodded, slowly, but her heart whispered a different answer. Outside, Richard barked orders. "We showcase control, ferocity, discipline, not sentiment." He glanced toward the reinforced cage where Brutus stood still. Clay approached with a modified remote, linked to a signal in Brutus's old tactical collar. "He'll react," Clay confirmed, "just like rehearsal." "Good. When I give the signal, unlock the gate. Make sure she's nearby." "Sir, there are guests." "That's the point. It'll look like an accident. The dog reacts, the girl screams. We contain the threat, then dispose of the liability. Clean, fast." Clay nodded, jaw tight, and moved toward the enclosure. Brutus stood still, limping, watching. Moments later, the crowd gathered. Richard stepped onto the stage, all charisma. "Ladies and gentlemen, witness the power of discipline. A rescue dog once deemed too aggressive, now reformed." Brutus was led to the field. The red light on his collar blinked, armed. In the background, Sophia rolled quietly out of the house. Pedro was already in place, pretending to sweep. Laura spoke desperately with Sheriff Martinez, but the signal was fading. Richard nodded. Clay lifted the remote. Sophia's heart pounded. She rolled toward the field's edge. Brutus saw her. His ears twitched, head tilted, tail moved. Then Clay pressed the trigger. The collar buzzed. Brutus froze. Muscles tightened. Heads turned as the crowd saw Sophia moving. Gasps. Clay unclipped the leash. Brutus bolted. The crowd screamed. People stepped back in horror as the German shepherd thundered forward, teeth bared, dirt flying behind him. "Sophia!" Laura screamed, racing from the house. Pedro dropped the broom and sprinted toward the girl, but Sophia didn't move. She sat perfectly still, calm, hands in her lap. Brutus was feet away, inches. And then he stopped. Mid-stride, he skidded to a halt, just inches in front of her wheelchair. He stared at her, chest heaving, eyes wild. And then he dropped, flat, right at her feet. The crowd fell silent. Brutus looked up at Sophia and let out the softest whine. She reached forward, laid a hand on his head, and whispered, "I see you." She touched him gently on the head. "It's okay," she whispered. "I know you didn't want to." Richard stood frozen on the stage, staring in horror as his plan unraveled. The ferocious dog had refused to obey, and the girl in the wheelchair, she had just proven more powerful than any command. The silence that followed Brutus's unexpected act stretched thick across the field. Then came the whispers, confusion, awe, suspicion. A child in a wheelchair had calmed a military-grade German shepherd mid-charge, not with force, not with commands, but with compassion. What was meant to be an accident had become a miracle. Sophia gently stroked Brutus's head. "I knew you would remember," she whispered. "You're not what he made you." Richard remained frozen on the stage. Clay, pale and shaken, still held the trigger remote, unsure whether to flee or deny. Laura rushed to Sophia's side. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Sophia shook her head. "He protected me. He chose not to hurt me." Laura turned her eyes to Brutus. The dog's body was tense, trembling from resisting the command. Then she looked at Richard, and in that moment she understood everything. "You did this," Laura said loudly enough for all to hear. "You trained him to attack her. You planned to call it an accident." Richard's jaw tightened. "That's absurd. You think I'd harm my own stepdaughter in public?" Sophia looked directly at him. "You were never my dad." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Pedro came running breathless, holding a small recorder. "I heard everything. The plan. Clay admitted it. He gave the order." He hit play. Richard's voice crackled through the speaker. "Make sure she's close during the demo. We'll frame it as an accident, a regrettable one." Outrage erupted, phones lifted, accusations spread like wildfire. "You little—" Richard lunged at Pedro, but Brutus was faster. With a growl, the dog leapt forward, placing himself firmly between the boy and the man who had once used him as a weapon. He did not bite. He did not advance. He simply stood guard. Clay dropped the remote and backed away. "I'm done," he muttered. "I didn't know it was a kid." "You knew," Laura snapped, "and you did it anyway." "I'll testify," Clay said, his eyes on Brutus. "Just keep him away from me." From the edge of the crowd, Sheriff Martinez's voice rang out. "He won't hurt anyone unless you give him a reason." The sheriff stepped forward. "We received an anonymous tip, evidence, voice recordings, witness testimony, and now this." He looked from Sophia to Brutus. "You both saved a life today." Richard was handcuffed without protest. His legacy crumbled before the very investors he had tried to impress. One of them turned to the sheriff. "We want nothing to do with him. Animal cruelty, child endangerment, conspiracy." The sheriff nodded. "All confirmed?" As Richard was led away, Sophia sat quietly. "Why did he hate me?" she asked softly. "Was it because I couldn't walk?" Laura knelt and wrapped her arms around her. "No, sweetheart. It's because he couldn't love anything that didn't fit his world." Pedro stepped up beside them. "But we do." Brutus let out a soft, low chuff and gently pressed against her wheelchair. "I think he does too," Pedro added. The sheriff turned to Laura. "With your permission, I'd like to release Brutus into your care. There'll be paperwork, but I think we all saw where he belongs." Laura looked to Sophia. "What do you think?" Tears welled in Sophia's eyes as she nodded. "He's already home." Thunder rumbled again in the sky, but the storm, the real one, had passed, and in its place something bright and new began to rise. 3 weeks later. The Weston estate no longer belonged to Richard. His accounts were frozen, his business deals suspended. His name, once spoken with awe, now whispered with disgrace. Laura filed for legal guardianship over all assets tied to Sophia's well-being. With Sheriff Martinez's backing and the testimony of both Clay and Pedro, the courts granted her full control of the property. The training grounds were dismantled. Shock collars, aggression-based programs, gone. In their place, something new was born. It began with one idea. If Brutus could be healed, others could too. The estate became a canine therapy center for traumatized military dogs and children with disabilities. Fences were repainted, stalls cleaned. The scent of anxiety that once clung to the air was replaced with the sound of laughter, the rustle of grass under small wheels, and the steady rhythm of canine paws across soft soil. Brutus, once broken, was now whole. His limp remained, a quiet reminder of his past battles, but his spirit had lifted. He followed Sophia on her therapy walks, lay beside her during art sessions under the old oak tree, and stayed close as she read aloud to the younger children. His eyes were sharp, but the fear was gone. He no longer flinched. He no longer backed away from touch. One evening, as the sky turned amber and gold, Sophia sat on the porch. Brutus curled beside her, his head resting gently on her legs. Laura rocked in a chair nearby. "They say animals don't remember like people do," Sophia said softly, petting Brutus behind the ear. "But he does. I know he does." Laura smiled. "He remembers you. You saved him." "No," Sophia whispered, smiling. "He saved me." Across the yard, Pedro waved from the new barn. Several dogs were being introduced to gentle handlers and children in wheelchairs. "Hey, Sophia, Brutus, there's a new one today. Her name's Daisy. She's scared, but I think she'll be okay if you come." Sophia looked down at Brutus. He was already up, tail wagging. "I guess we've got work to do," she whispered. Together they wheeled and walked across the yard, sunlight catching the soft glint of the engraved tag around Brutus's neck. It read simply, "Service dog, guardian, family." That night. After the sun dipped behind the hills, stars emerged over Rodeo Valley. Sophia stood at her bedroom window, the same one she'd once stared through, thinking no one saw her, thinking she was a burden. She could hear dogs barking softly below, Pedro laughing with a handler, Laura singing quietly as she folded laundry, then a low growl, a rustle, the back gate. Sophia froze. A shadow moved near the fence, a man, cloaked in darkness, tugging at the lock. Before she could scream, Brutus was already there. He burst through the open back door, leaping down the patio steps. His bark was loud and sharp, not from fear, but from purpose. The man jumped back, slipping in the grass before bolting into the woods. Lights turned on. Laura rushed in. Pedro grabbed a flashlight. But Brutus had already done his job. The intruder was gone. Police found footprints. They confirmed what they feared. Richard had escaped custody 2 nights before. He had come back, but he would not come again. Later that night, Brutus returned to Sophia's room, panting, a little muddy but unharmed. She ran her fingers through his fur and whispered, "You did it again." Laura sat at the foot of the bed, speechless, and then she smiled. "Maybe it's time we change the sign out front," she said. Sophia looked up. What should it say now? Laura met her daughter's eyes, her voice firm. "Welcome to Haven Creek, where heroes come to heal." If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.